Greg, go for it.
We're live.
We're live. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Geekable Trades, episode 60. May the 4th be with you, your podcast for all things geeky. I mixed the order up on that.
We'll get it.
I'm Greg Barlow.
And I'm Dirk Pretorius. And we swear we'll, I don't know, write scripts? No, we won't. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Geekable Trades is filmed before a live Twitch audience.
It's true. Oh, laugh soundtracks. That's the next thing, right?
So yes, today is Star Wars Day. So May the 4th be with you, or this is the May, as
this is the May.
The new meme proclaims.
Mm-hmm. I kind of prefer that.
Yeah, I know, me as well. It's much more catchy. Maybe that's just because it's the most recent fad. You know?
Yeah, recency bias and all that.
So we'll obviously be talking about Star Wars today. Maybe some of our favorite games in the Star Wars verse, tabletop and or PC and or whatnot.
Yes, it's true.
And yes, we have no guest again today, but that's okay. We're cool enough on our own. I don't know if you know that.
I mean, I like to think so. You've got a cool octopus shirt. So
exactly.
You must be a cool guy.
So many guests.
Yes. So many limbs.
So yeah, we'll just jump right into it then and go with our wild news headline appearing.
But Greg, you've missed out on your new thing that you introduced in the last one.
Oh yes, drinking. What you drinking? Yeah. That's a new thing. I'm going to add it to my notes right now, so I don't forget it.
Good man.
Section and I immediately forgot I made it.
Oh no!
There we
go. Fair, I did make a new intro for it, so that's also okay.
Oh, nice. Okay. Did it?
No, I haven't made a new intro.
Oh, there is no intro. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, look forward to that, viewers.
Yes.
So, Doe, what you drinking tonight?
So tonight is a tequila old fashioned.
And what's an old fashioned?
So a regular old fashioned is like whiskey with some bitters and a like syrup of some variety. This one is a tequila version, so it has got a reposado, which I've used Espolon with. My main thing is going a bit Monteblos for the other sort of smoky component of it, because that's like one of the things it's known for. Normal Angostura bitters and agave syrup to continue the tequila sort of framing, and then that's all mixed together and put on ice, and I quite like it. I've also added a narchi for the like sort of thing there for the spritzing and the oils. So
citrus twang. And myself, I have a Baron Samedi shot of rum mixed with Coke because I just wanted a good old fashioned rum and Coke.
You can't go wrong with that. You really can't.
Yeah. So, cheers.
Cheers.
So yeah, hopefully the viewers will have their beverage of choice to keep them warm in these cooler nights. And,
or cool, hotter nights, who knows? Yeah. We don't know, a global audience and all that, right?
Global audience. Warmer nights, cooler nights, whatever your night is doing for you, I hope you have something appropriate to drink.
Who knows with climate change?
So yes, now we'll move on to a wild news headline.
Indeed.
And yes, we'll have our lovely intro jingle. And so yes, wild news headline. If you'll remember, we're adventuring along the Pokemon green, blue, yellow, red route.
Yes.
The non-IP infringing monster catching color route.
Completely.
And you just reached. So it's normally Pewter City. I can't remember what we call it.
Yeah, we just gone through verdant green forest, and we're now hitting clearly it must be Lead City, because
Lead City.
Future models and lead models.
Yeah.
Right?
So just be careful when you're working with it. Oh no, but maybe you want to go more modern. It could be Resin City.
Ooh. But is resin a color? That's the problem here. You got to stay in theme, man.
Suppose. Yeah. But it can be colored. Resin has color.
By itself.
I think it's clear by itself. But anyway, let's not get too sidetracked. As you sort of arrive at the city, having done your forest gauntlet, you'll well remember that. Let's do an entrance battle first, actually.
Ooh.
You're greeted at the city by a headline who will only let you into the city if you deal with them first. And your intro headline is that Blizzard is battling Fox over a cartoon dog named
Named
Diablo.
Diablo. I saw that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So is this Fox dog like a new IP from their side, or is it a
Yeah.
established one? Or
So Fox is releasing an animated series about animals and therapy.
okay, well, that's kind of interesting.
And the main character is a dog named Diablo. So
Okay.
Fox obviously wants to trademark it so that they can make pet food and shot glasses and airbrushes.
and tequila, like El Diablo, El Diablo.
Indeed. And Blizzard has immediately said, no. Diablo is our name and you cannot use it for anything. So that begs the question, is Diablo Blizzard's name? Like,
I mean, like, it's just like Del in Spanish or Latin, even, like,
exactly.
I think. Like, so, but, you know, when you frame it within a certain space, it would be, because this is like in the entertainment space. So there's probably some sort of copyright thing where they're like, we must do this because otherwise in future when we try to make entertainment or we try to make the anime for Diablo, because Netflix is making all the game animes at the moment, we won't be able to do it because Fox has this Diablo TV series. So it's probably something along the lines of that, I would think.
Or if Blizzard wants to release their Diablo pet food.
So like next April Fools, they need to do that.
Diablo pet food. Fresh meat.
That was butcher, Greg.
Yeah. I mean, that's butcher flavor.
Oh, this is Mephisto.
Mephisto flavor. I can't remember his catchphrase when you fight him. He's like, your soul is mine or something.
Yeah.
Generic bad guy.
Just play Heroes of the Storm. You'll pick up quickly enough. Yeah, like interesting to have like a dog named Diablo as your lead character in a pet therapy thing.
I mean, I've heard weirder things.
I mean, I'm a fan of wrestling, so I have as well, but that's all weird.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be a good show. Maybe it'll overtake Diablo in popularity.
I mean, no. Did you see the numbers from how many people watched Oscars this year, and then put in comparison to how many people watched the video game awards?
I did not. Was it significant?
It's so like Oscars get like 12 million or something like that. The video game awards get like 80 million. So it's a pretty substantial difference there.
It makes sense as well, though, because I think the video game inclined people are much more inclined to watch a live stream.
Or stream something, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like the Oscars haven't exactly been able to do all the pomp and circumstance and the regular sort of stuff there. But yeah, I don't know.
Way less Oscar stuff going on. Like, I mean, there's less Oscar content generated over the last year, I think, compared to how it normally would be. I think
it's true. It's true. Like we had like the one. It's not I think of it in there, but you know, it's they had to do the 2019 one in 2020. Sorry, 2021 in like the beginning of this year. So we kind of like had like back-to-back Oscars as well, which is a bit of a weird one.
Certainly a system that's probably showing its age and maybe needs to be rethought now.
Yeah, Polar Knights reckons that it's like the perfect evolution of beards. I don't know quite, but yes, we need to bring Dylan in as a guest, and then you'll probably see the full evolution of beard.
My beard has unfortunately reached a stage where when I'm zipping up a jersey, it gets gone.
Oh no, Greg! Oh no!
So I think maybe it's time to just go get it, and get nicely shaped. And
just don't do like the BFG thing of like putting extra like later food in there, and it'll be fine.
I was also thinking of getting a nice color stripe, but we'll see. Seeing as I'm home now,
yeah, it's true.
Things like that. Stay tuned for Beard Watch. Anyway, so how do you want to deal with this dog named Diablo?
Well, clearly it is the inferior Diablo, and I need to summon in Diablo. I throw the Sin Stone of Diablo at it.
So you throw the Sunstone of Diablo, and instead of Diablo himself appearing, just 3 corporate Blizzard lawyers appear. And assist Diablo the dog, and he's gone. You don't even get battle XP though, unfortunately.
Oh.
Take it all in in side payments.
Where did you get the Sunstone?
Yeah.
This is the wrong game IP. Did you pay the rights?
It's a different IP. And you quickly scurry away. You escaped. And you find yourself in what did we say? Not Iron City. Lead City.
Yes,
My brain. So now Lead City, if you will remember, is known for its science museum and your very first gym.
Oh, yes.
So would you like to go and try your gym battle first, or do you want to explore the science museum?
I want to see the science museum. What kind of fossils they got in there?
Perfect, because I think that would be the natural path. So you go and investigate the science museum, and it's a modern science museum now, as opposed to an old fossil museum, because the fossils were too IP infringing. So instead, they've just cool displays and things like that. And one of the displays has a headline, and that has that League of Legends animated series Arcane is coming to Netflix this fall, which is American fall, which is our September.
Yeah, which is interesting. Like I saw the trailer. I didn't actually know about it beforehand, but apparently, like it's been rumored on the LoL launcher for a while. But this was like the first proper preview of it. It looks interesting because it looks like it's doing the whole like Zom and Piltover sort of like thing with Vi. It is Vi. Like
I think it's Vi.
She says like Vi is for violence or something like that in the game. So
in her song, she says Vi.
Yeah, so
song that they released when she released.
Did they have a song for her? I think
about
Jinx because there's
very pumpy. I'll link
it. Okay, I'll find it. Yeah,
it's a good song. I'll put it in the Discord.
Hey, there we go. So that and then like and Jinx, and then I don't know. It does. Could it be Victor? I just don't know who the weird mechanical man is.
All we get is like 13 seconds. So for those viewers who don't know, League of Legends is an online game, but they've been quite good about building up their lore and their background universe. And now recently they've got
Dan Abnett.
Oh, Dan Abnett's right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting. And the 2 cities that Douw mentioned are like the steampunky cities in the setting.
Yeah, the ones that sort of like one's kind of more diesel punk, Frankensteinian, like sort of like, oh, we'll buy a modifier, and the other one's more like invention.
And Jinx and Vi are 2 sisters that well, Jinx is quite a popular character. I don't know about Vi so much.
Are they sisters?
Yeah, they're sisters in the lore.
Wow, I didn't know that. I knew they were like similar gangs. So I think this whole thing is like Vi elevated herself out of the gang life.
She's a sheriff.
A responsible person.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's obviously the angle of story they may be going for. Is that sort of like origin / relationship they have? Because Jinx is pretty much a Harley Quinn type character, I guess is the best way to describe her.
Yeah, very chaotic, neutral, lol type. Yeah,
good for the lols. Yeah.
I think she's like gotten a little bit more fleshed out since like her initial, but like just like the first music video she appeared in was just like chaos.
Pretty much.
But like, it's weird because I mean, she's sort of stepping on like, I don't know if you followed League like at all.
Little
so
bit.
like Zoe, the Star Child character, like she's also very low random. So they kind of have to be like, we need to define how these are different. So this is like low random at a like galaxy level, and this is low random at a I'm just a villain in a cartoon sort of thing.
Yes.
But it's like very similar characters.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be interesting. Like I want to see what other characters they bring in, because I mean like there's tons of characters within there, and even potential time travel if they bring in some characters like Echo or
all of them.
But I mean like Echo's like part of like that whole dynamic between the 2 cities. So but yeah, lots of interesting things within there. Like I wonder what other characters that they haven't shown are in it. But yeah, I wonder like how long it's been in the works. So like if it was like who got there first to Netflix? Was it the Dota people or the LoL people?
That's the natural evolution of a MOBA. If it, if it becomes a Netflix series.
Yes.
Because Dota was released first and then League of Legends, right? So
yeah.
what's the next MOBA that will become a TV series? Who knows?
I mean, there's like Wild Rift and all those sort of like things like now they're just kind of making it even more. It's pretty with like not being really locally supported so much. Like a lot of people have gotten it through means and ways, but yeah, I don't know. Like it seems like Riot's on a big. I mean, they've been on a big push for the last several years now. You look at everything like from Valorant to there's a MMO that they're busy working on where they've grabbed a whole bunch of the old like WoW original WoW people in for, and it's supposed to be like I mean no like I don't think WoW Killer exists anymore. let's be honest. WoW just kind of exists as a monolith by itself, but another MMO wouldn't be bad. I think like putting an MMO in the League of Legends world will be kind of cool. And you'd think that they'd want to expose more people to the lore and be like, okay, well, I'm making my character from Zom or making my character from Noxus or those kinds of things. So, yeah, I kind of wonder if they'll have like just because I mean like the bad guy factions are only like loosely aligned in that universe, and even there like Noxus is weird because they're bad guys, but they're not really necessarily.
Yeah, they're like just a different viewpoint guys.
Oh, I hate that.
Alternative means.
Yeah, but where it was like Zom is like very evil. So
mustache evil. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Bump in the night. Like yeah, but then they got the Ghost Isles, I think it's called. So that's where that's actually like supernatural evil.
Story arc with that prince that came in from somewhere.
Yeah.
So I've been playing.
Yes, so that was the whole thing of like that's the whole reason why there's the ghost demons, because he sacrificed his like whole nation for his like love at a point and got locked away with it. Yeah, I don't know more than that though. But I mean it's interesting, and as I say, like they've got Abnett on it to kind of be like, hey, build us a world and make it like proper. And I mean like they've done a lot. I mean I can just like remember back to the days of like, you know, like Nunubot and those kinds of things. Of, you know, there's no lore here really. There's just people going into battle, like sort of thing.
Yeah, it was like a basic lore structure.
Yeah, like you know, champions coming into an arena to fight, and like they're disparate, and like they have the Demacia and Noxus thing from the start. Otherwise, I suppose like bits of Freljord, but like nothing that like they've got now of it. So.
Yeah, they certainly built it up a lot from its roots. So it'll be an interesting show to watch. Keep an eye out for that on Netflix eventually, September. Well, that's the beginning of fall. It could even be the end of fall, which is like November, I guess.
Why?
I don't know how American seasons work.
Seasons, what a concept.
Indeed. So yeah, so obviously in the Science Museum there's a massive League of Legends exhibit, and you can pick one champion to be your companion in this adventure. Who do you pick?
Who needs a map?
Okay, obviously Ezreal.
Yeah, maybe that or Jax, because I mean we could then give him other weapons instead of a lamp post. You beat everyone. But no, Ezreal.
Ezreal is your gut instinct, so he joins you on your adventure. Ezreal has joined the party.
Hooray!
Because now it's an RPG and monster catching game. Let's see how many other mechanics we can go into this slowly over time. So Ezreal needs to go and catch his first non-IP infringing monstermon.
Yes.
And he goes outside of town to go and catch one, whilst you decide to tackle your first gym. Normally it's rock type, so it'd be the boulder.
It's the boulder badge though, so
yeah. So it's like what's like similar to rocks but more modern and different. I'm gonna say concrete gym.
Yeah, I suppose.
You go to the concrete gym and you reach out and you push open the massive double doors, and you're expecting this gym filled with different like rocks and rock obstacles and stuff. But instead, an eerie mist flows out of the doors, and you step into this thick, solid wall of mist, and like there's something goes ee, and flies past you. You're like, what the?
As, not the zoo rats.
Suddenly, from the darkness, you hear as the last headline for this evening jumps out and attacks you to get your gym badge, and it's Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft is going to be released on the 18th of this month.
Which looks interesting. It's nice that like Fifth Ed is kind of returning to a lot of these other settings and kind of giving them the love that Fourth Ed didn't. I don't know, like Fifth Ed, like to me feels very much like the homebrew edition. But I think that's just because of all the real players out there and like the critical roles, the high rollers, and etc. who've built up their own worlds and like people have gotten invested in there. In comparison to when was the last time you heard about a big thing in Faerun other than like they had like the Undermountain adventure and like I suppose they've had modules for it, but it hasn't felt like linked to it necessarily in a weird way. Kind of like felt similar with like the Eberron campaign setting, like when it got released for it. The first time they released the Ravenloft stuff, it hasn't felt as kind of attached to it as the homebrewers.
It's been more agnostic than before, because definitely 3.5 was the Forgotten Realms edition in my eyes.
And Eberron in a lot of ways, because that was when it first hit. It was like after that big like creator search thing. But I mean, that was only like as like latter half of 3.5. Like as like the 3.75 as everyone started referring to it, I came in.
Yes.
But yeah, it was definitely like Faerun, and then like Fourth Age just did the weird time jump in Faerun and kind of killed that setting in my opinion.
It went through a lot of troubles.
Yeah, like Baldur's Gate and like the other things are kind of slowly but surely pulling it back and kind of being like, actually, you can be interested in the setting again. But yeah, it's felt a bit weird and out of there. I think that because of that disconnect and because there's so many new people coming into it, they're playing it. But it'd be interesting because I mean, like, there's talk of like the Dragonlance book as well coming out in the near future.
Yes, floating around the internetosphere.
I think it's a good ploy for them to get like the lapsed players, because again, to me, it feels like Fifth Ed is it's a young edition in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's new players who here's the simple rule set, you can make a character, it's not too complicated rules, you can get into it, you can tell these grand stories quite quickly and easily. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the Ravenloft book though, because although to me, horror is so difficult to do in D&D.
So I've actually had some good. I was running a horror campaign before lockdown, back in the before times. I was actually running quite a fun horror game. I called it the Horror Hamperers. It was sort of like half a mix of homebrew, and because I was using actually Pathfinder, and they had it like an occult sort of book with like these weird like hauntings and stuff you could use. So that was quite fun to like build around like these cursed things and like tormented spirits that the players had to try and appease, not just beat in a combat encounter. But so Van Richten's Guide has a whole section on running horror adventures, apparently, like 50-page spread.
I can remember back, like, I don't know if you remember, there was back in 3.5, there's like the Heroes of Horror book that came out, and like that had a lot of like really interesting things in there, a lot of very dread ideas that they were like kind of like suggested in it. And I don't know, like I think that's always the difficulty in there is because the horror, like, lethality doesn't feel proper in D&D because there's a cleric who can resurrect you, or etc. Or because you're these like epic heroes, it's not like necessarily a thought. And it's interesting to kind of see, because I think GMs, as we've progressed, we've gotten a lot more ruthless. I think in general, there's the thing of like, if a character dies, then it adds to the story. In horror, you kind of need that dread and that kind of stakes, but I don't know, like in comparison to a Call of Cthulhu game or even World of Darkness, you don't feel as fragile as a D&D adventurer.
So that's what I did when I was running my Pathfinder horror game. Is I actually just drew a lot from like the Cthulhu mythos and stuff. I was like,
Mm,
"I'll borrow this, please."
yeah,
I
yeah.
needed to drive my players mad and insane. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Van Richten's Guide, you can find interesting things like subclasses: the Undead Warlock, the Bard of College of Spirits,
Well, that's cool.
um,
Like a spirit talker.
Dampiers, Hex Bloods, and Reborn as races. I know Dampiers. I don't know Hex Bloods or Reborn. Those are new to me.
Reborn have been around for a little while.
Mm.
I'm trying to remember the exact lore. It's sort of like a, a living thing born of an undead that wasn't a vampire necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like kind of Bladish.
Yeah, yeah.
um, there's this whole section on dark gifts as a mechanic, and plenty of horror themed trinkets and items.
Nice.
They've written out all of the Ravenloft lore for several of the areas, which is quite rare to have all in one place.
Mm,
Because as a setting, it's quite a disparate setting. Because how it came about was people started taking all the horror settings and then kind of sewed them all together with the mists of Ravenloft, right?
yes, yeah, yeah.
So to find a cohesive, like, oh, this is Ravenloft kind of thing is much rarer nowadays.
Mm,
So it'll be an interesting read when it does come out.
would be, would be.
Yeah, yeah. And then a bestiary filled with all of your
I mean,
typical
of
horror
course.
monsters, like
Yeah.
vampire mind flayers and were-ravens.
Vampire mind flayers. What even? Does it want your blood or your brain? Which does it
Both.
want?
It sucks out your brains and your blood at the same time.
You
I
wow.
don't.
Oh.
That's what I would do.
Lovely.
Um,
Oh, they must especially hate the sun.
so, how are you going to beat this gym and get your badge? It's Ravenloft. So,
Oh, geez, yeah. Oh dear. Ravenloft's difficult with it there. I'll just further sort of like things in my mixing of stuff, and I'll just evade it using a spelljammer ship.
okay. Oh yes, you climb aboard your spelljammer and dimension back to when it was just a normal rock gym.
Yes.
Rock.
Thank you. Okay.
You actually need rock because you spelljammer into the Pokemon universe.
Yes.
Rock and spelljammer back out to this universe.
Just be like, I got your badge. What?
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Oh no,
yes.
there's a Kendra aboard.
The's a Kendra aboard every spelljammer. That's just the rule.
It is. You can't not do it.
Holmes and Kendra. So yeah, that's the end of Wild News headline. You've escaped Lead City's gym with your badge, and you start heading towards the mountain. I can't remember the mountain range's name, but we'll find out next episode.
Mount Moon in the game. So
yeah, Mount Moon. That's it. So
like
we'll have to think of
yes, some lunar-based thing.
Yeah. Peak Luna or something. Who knows?
Ooh,
we'll see.
We'll see.
So that brings us to the end of Wild News headlines. So
Indeed.
let's transition a bit across to today, which is May the 4th, as most people know by now.
Yeah, I just realized I should have gotten like a lightsaber clashing transition. That would be good.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to do it like on our screens. Like I'm left, right? So
other way.
Other way. By this
other way. So yeah.
I don't know which way my camera's facing.
I know it's weird.
So that was our lightsaber transition. 10 out of 10.
Absolutely.
And Star Wars, right? So Star Wars has a long and tradition history of games.
It does. Like I don't know. Did you also like? I think like one of the first ones I ever played was actually like Yoda Stories or Yoda Tales. I think it was called.
Oh, that was the one that was like isometric 2D where you walked around.
Yeah.
Yes, that was one of the very first ones I ever played.
Yeah.
That was really good.
It was a lot of fun. Like I can't remember ever beating it or even beating a level of it because I was so young when I first played it, sort of thing. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. But I think like getting into like Star Wars games for me was actually like around episode one and all the games they released around that time.
Hmm.
Like the horrible jankiness of the platformer that was released with it that I couldn't get past. Like what's the main city on Naboo?
Oh,
Oh, I've forgotten that. But yeah, I think like
it's
there's
Naboo Prime.
no, yeah. But like I feel like there's like a level in there where like there's a boss part where you have to fight a tank, and I just in my
I remember.
younger self I couldn't work out to use the force powers to force push the like thing back and all that. I eventually beat it. By that time I was so like burnt out on it.
Yeah, I
But
remember that well.
yeah.
The first ever game I played, well, besides I remember playing Yoda Tales, but that's a much more foggier memory.
Hmm.
But the first game I remember like keenly enjoying and like playing through and finishing was the Dark Forces game. The first
Yes.
one.
So
We had
like
to get the plans for the Death
Death
Star.
Star, yeah. Made like Rogue One feel like a lot like more like oh no. Oh. Yeah, and it's
Sorry.
like Dark Forces. I didn't play. Like I only picked up that series by the time it had become Jedi Knight, and even
Mm,
then, only by Jedi Knight two.
right.
Which yes, like we'll get to that sort of like thing, but I mean, it's interesting because I mean, Dark Forces is very like Doom, but
Hmm.
Star
Yeah.
Wars.
Yeah, it was essentially a Doom
Dude,
reskin with Star Wars vibes.
no,
Except obviously
I have to left
figure
click
out
to
how to
select
do,
my character to move. Oh no.
they couldn't figure out like melee or lightsaber mechanics or anything. So they're like, well,
Yes.
you'll just be this cool guy, this like agent who has to like blast his way through these stormtrooper
Yeah,
bases.
good old Kyle Katarn.
Hmm. And then
Yeah,
eventually they make him like force sensitive and stuff. But
yeah, in
what
the
is
second
it?
game, and like
Yeah,
when
when
they
they
had
figured
like
out how to do it in a game as a game mechanic to use
yes,
lightsabers.
once they had the Quake 3 engine, man. Once they had the Quake 3
Yeah,
engine.
exactly. They needed advances in technology to use lightsabers.
Mm. I mean, like I did go back and like because there was like I mean, there's always the holiday sales for all the Star Wars games.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
mean, I did deliberately go and buy like Dark Forces amongst it to play through, and be like,
Hmm.
oh, I need to get this education and kind of see where Kyle Katarn
Yeah.
started and went up to. Um, but yeah, that was definitely like one that I like. I have fond memories of the later parts of that series.
Hmm.
Another like so like on I don't know like the episode one games. There are some like semi educational ones that they released with it. I don't know if you ever played. There was the one where you had to help the Gungans repopulate the
Mm,
moon with like
the
the biodiversity
ecosystem.
stuff, the
Yeah.
ecosystem one. I spent so many hours in that game, so many
Hmm.
hours. I think it's why
Hmm.
I'm like not as adverse to Gungans as other people tend to be. I'm like this is fine, this is fine. And then the other one they had was like I think it was also done in like the early like Quake engine sort of like thing, but it was like a droid one, and you had to go out on missions as droids. And you built your own little droid, and you went out
Hmm.
and you did missions for like I think it was like the Republic, and you
Hmm.
got new parts to put in your droid and stuff. We'll spend a lot of time in there, and then obviously
Yeah.
pod racing because
Oh,
I think
yeah. Pod
like
racing.
I think that was like one of the ones where I always hated not having a PlayStation in that era. It's just like,
Hmm.
oh man, not this and all other things that I want for it.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think out of all the games, it's probably a little bit later on in that era, but
Mm.
Empire at War was probably my favorite.
Mm.
Um,
That was a lot of
that's
fun.
yeah. For those who've never
Just,
seen it, it's the strategy game one where you could be both ground combat and space combat.
oh
So
no, so that's after. So that's not even like that's a good deal after because I was thinking it was the Age of Empires too, sort of like
oh
looking
no,
one.
maybe that's Empire at War. I don't know. I don't know. Whichever one.
Yeah, something around there. Like there's those two, and both are really good.
Mm,
Like I enjoyed that. I loved the Age of Empires 2 reskinned one just because it had like every faction, and every
mhm,
faction had a different way of playing, and that was like really cool. But then the other one that like you're talking about was like the space and land battles sort of thing. It
mm,
made it like very epic in scale.
mhm, mhm.
Um, which I mean, yeah, that can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Can't go
Well, I'm
very
just
wrong with other things.
fleet-based combat, so
Yeah. I mean, the fleet battles weren't too bad either. Like, they had a lot of like interesting things. It's no Battleship Gothica sort of like thing, but it was still
Mm,
pretty good. And like the factions you expect to like use the tactics that they did, etc. So,
mhm.
oh, I remember that. And then yeah,
And
kind of talking around like sort of like around there because that's also around the time that not in line with the movies, but continuation of the Dark Forces with like Jedi Knight and then Jedi Knight 2 Outcast, which yeah, probably one like definitely as one of my very top like Star Wars games. Um,
so
told like a really proper Star Wars story.
mm, yeah, you could tell they were actually trying to really
Mm,
like get the Star Wars tale in there. It felt like one of the novels, like one of the extended
yeah,
universe.
it did. I mean, it helped that they had like I mean, Mara Jade comes in the expansion, but you had like all these other little characters and sort of stuff like popping up. Like Luke was there, and
Mm.
it mentioned all these other things, and like there's all stuff that happened in the first Jedi Knight game with the Dark Jedi and finding the Valley of the Jedi
Mhm.
and all that stuff. But I just liked it because it was this sort of semi-redemptive again tale for Kyle. Or, like okay, well he's forsaken the Force, but now he needs to get it back, but he's doing it for the wrong reasons and
Mhm.
all that stuff. And like in doing so, empowers his enemies to be like the reborn. I think they were called.
Oh gosh, I can't even remember.
Yeah,
It's
and
something like
having these people who are like, we're not Jedi, but we've gained the power from the Jedi, Valley of the Jedi. Thank you. And like a compelling villain in Dasan as well, like former Jedi pupil of Luke coming back and all that kind of stuff. So also enjoyed it just because like Kyle's like a Jedi, but he's not. Has the love interest, has like he was the smuggler and all these kinds of things in
mm,
there. Uh, and like slow cutting around to like actually I'm doing this for the right reasons, not for the
mm,
I need
mm.
to kill the guy who killed my girlfriend but didn't really.
Yeah, I suppose that's a story arc that they could really utilize is the Kyle Katarn sort of story arc.
Well, they
If
could. I
they
mean,
want
like they
Netflix
could.
series of things or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that can kind of fit in. You'd have to bring back Valley of the Jedi, which I mean, after the whole midichlorians and everything like that, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of explain.
Mm,
But yeah,
yeah, you could try if you try hard enough.
I mean,
Um,
the Force is time travel nowadays, so
it's true. It's
it
true.
can work.
Um, and then there was also Knights of the Old Republic, which was really good
Oh
around
yeah,
that time.
everyone. My poor computer could not play that like the first few times, like sort of thing. So like
Yeah.
as soon as I got to like Taris's like outer world thing, it would just be like frame, frame, frame. So I'd have
Mm,
to like just that long promenade where you had to get from like one side to the other side to get like to the lower sections. Oh, so I had to like glitch through that, get to the end. Okay, game's running fine again. Eventually,
mm,
you get a new graphics card like halfway through. But
yeah.
yeah, that was a really good one and like a
Mm.
different type of Jedi
It
story. And
was a full RPG as well, which was quite different
mm,
compared to like all the other games were sort of like action RPGs. Like
yes,
they had a little bit of RPG and that you could like
well, I mean,
pick more power.
it was effectively like Icewind Dale in
Yes.
Star Wars.
That,
So
that's why I think it was the first game that had really
mm,
impacted me and made me like, oh yeah, Star Wars lore, like
mm,
ancient Star Wars lore that no one
yes,
knows about.
exactly, and like a really interesting era as well because you've got like the Sith, but like not like they come across as the real Sith, but even then they're not the real. Weird, but it was still very interesting, and I loved like them expanding Mandalorian like history
Mhm.
throughout there, introducing the concept of Mandalore,
Mm.
like just this person who takes up the name and the mantle of it.
Yep.
Um, and like all the aftermath of that, the diaspora, like the very early twist with them just like being like, cool, well, you guys are on this planet, we're just going to destroy the planet because you're not giving us what you want, and just being like,
Mm.
holy crap, stakes are
Oh.
quite bad here. And then the later twist where they're just like, well, you're actually the big bad guy from before the story, and they wiped your mind. What do you want to do about this?
Mhm.
I still play
Spoilers.
I mean, it's 20 years
When
old
you
now,
even
almost, like,
used
isn't
to.
it? Yeah.
Well, I
But
recommend our viewers who are watching, if you've never played it,
mm,
get it for cheap on Steam. Go play it. It's a great game.
there's also
Uh,
there's a lot of really good mods for it to bring it up to like modern graphics and everything within there.
the second
Also,
one is
like
good too.
this second one. So the second one is interesting because they pumped it out in like a year,
Mm.
and the story I still think it's almost better in a lot of ways than the first one. but there's just a lot of missing bits in it,
Mm.
which kind of hampered it a lot. And the finale comes very quick. It's just like all of a sudden you're like, oh, la, 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 oh, that character is a bad person actually, and they're
Bam.
in the bam, like
Game is done.
go fight the big bad guys you've been chasing and running away from the whole game.
Mm.
Okay, I'll do that. Apparently there was a whole extra section that was written, but they
Hmm.
never had the time to finish. And
Huh.
nowadays there's a whole bunch of mods and stuff where they've written that in,
Mm.
so you can actually play out that, which is quite nice.
Okay.
I mean, that was interesting as well because did you ever play the Old Republic, the MMO?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting how they kind of wrapped up all the lore with the Outcast and the like Revan and just everything, and like it was weird though because I don't know how much you played of the Old Republic.
So I played farish, but only on the Empire side as an Imperial agent. So I was getting
Okay,
mostly like
so
Imperial stuff.
yeah, so by the second expansion, they bring Revan back
Mm-hmm.
because the Emperor in that time, and the Emperor who's still around now, because he sucks the life force out of everyone to keep himself young, had
Mm.
like cryo froze him effectively, and he's like the main raid boss at the end of the second expansion.
Mm.
And then eventually you convince him to be a good guy, but I mean, good as much as Revan is a good guy.
Yeah.
But I still love that, like on the Imperial side, you didn't play through as the Force users, but it's
Mm.
very intriguing because, like, with the Force users, when you play on the Sith planet, there's like
Mm-hmm.
a cult that worships Revan
Mm.
like as Darth Revan sort of thing within there, and they're very like light side tainted. So it's an interesting little like juxtaposition. You could join them if you wanted, but there's
Mm.
all sorts of interesting little tales and stuff. I really liked that game because it was still a BioWare,
Mm-hmm.
story in the Old
Mm-hmm.
Republic. So
Yeah.
you still had this all really good writing. It just happened to be an MMO on the side. So certain campaigns weren't that great, but
Mm.
like the Jedi Knight one, fantastic. The Sith Warrior one, fantastic. I've heard good things about the. Well, I haven't heard, like the soldiers are interesting because it's just sort of like, well, you like playing clones, right?
Yeah.
In a weird kind of way. The Scoundrel was interesting because it was very like, you want to play a rip-off Han Solo?
Yeah.
We
Gosh.
gotcha.
Yeah. Smuggle, smuggle, smuggle.
Smuggle. Yeah. But I know that was still, and I mean, it's still going. They had like a really weird. The last two expansions have been like really strange, like because they're like, well, we can't have just this faction warfare constantly going. We need to introduce a third force, which is even
Mm-hmm.
worse, and we'll have them going against them. And like, it's someone who's like Palpatine levels of power. So it was an interesting one, but I don't know. Like, I think I fell off because I didn't have other people to play with. I got to like
Mm.
I had a founder for that. Got to level 50 with my Jedi Knight, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. Although a funny story with it, their billing system. So it used to be like $15 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's generally most of the price, whatever. When it charged on South African cards, it charged you 15 rand a
Uh,
month. So you're like, oh, this is
like,
cool. So
hmm,
yeah, I ended up
if I'd
playing a
known
little
that,
bit
I
longer
think I
there.
would have played longer.
I mean, the problem is like they went free to play, and
Yeah.
like I hate the model for the free to play. It's better now, but like the old model used to be like, cool, if you're playing on the free to play, you've only got 4 instead of 8 on your action bar, and all sorts of weird nonsense like that. And it's like, oh,
Mm,
this is the worst kind of freemium game. Just go
yeah.
away.
I feel like we could have a whole episode just discussing MMO models and like what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, we
So
really could at some point.
we could save that for the future.
Yeah, yeah.
And let's maybe move on to Star Wars in the meat space realm,
Hmm,
because there's a lot of games that we all play in the meat space realm for Star Wars,
it's
and
true.
some people might not even be aware of them who are watching.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, if you're on our Discord, you've probably seen at least the X-wing
Mm-hmm.
channels, and X-wing's a really fun one because it's dog fighting, but with
Mm-hmm.
ships on the table. It's a very simple to get into, but very very deep game.
Uh,
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. Like once you start learning about like even just like learning how to block with ships, and then never mind when you start hitting like the CIS with like their horrible gravity. Like I'm gonna maneuver myself using gravity and then put it on you, and
Super Nantex tractor beams go.
yeah. But
Although that
it
got nerfed, trying to feel
did.
the
No one liked playing that list, Greg. No one liked playing against that list, except the person who's playing it.
Yeah, it was super fun to play.
Yeah.
So yeah, X-Wing is probably the most proliferous game in South Africa, at least.
Globally as well. I mean, like even when I was at Gen Con, there's many more tables of X-Wing than your other like sort of fancy flight games within there.
I think because the barrier of entry is so low, because all you need is like 4 or 5 ships. I mean, you're obviously going to buy more eventually because that's how these games work. But you only need 5 ships or so to start, maybe even less, depending on which faction you're playing.
A Millennium Falcon and another ship.
Yeah,
cool.
Exactly. Millennium Falcon and an X-Wing. Bam, you've got your list. You could just play that the rest of your life. I mean, you might lose some upgrade cards and stuff, but so many people have them, you can just borrow from other people.
Yeah, or go to a tournament and win one. Or just participate in a tournament and get it. So there's more than enough within that. And Corona's hit it badly, unfortunately, I think. And that's just a global thing. Like even just getting any FFG shipments have been pretty bad as well, honestly. Other games like Legion as well, and Armada to a lesser degree, like it's not really played all that much, but you'd expect a lot of it because of the Clone Wars stuff coming in. And it's just like, no stock, nowhere. It doesn't exist. But I mean, X-Wing is definitely the game. It's easy to get into. It's cool ships. They're pre-painted. There's not too much within there. The other one that I mentioned there is like Legion, which is a skirmish game, kind of skirmish army game sort of a thing, I suppose. And that's non-painted models. It's like, okay, you get your plastic, it's traditional, okay, I'm gonna cut it off the sprue, although sometimes it just comes in little bankies, and then just put them together and go.
Yeah, playing droids is hard.
Yes. But yeah, it's that's quite a fun one. That originally started with just like Rebellion versus Empire, and then hit the Clone Wars stuff. And I think going into the Clone Wars was such a smart thing and kind of a very needed thing. I remember going to the Gen Con where they first revealed it, and I was like, "This is a cool game, but I'm not starting it until you get the clones." That was the promise I made on that day when I saw it. I was just like, "No, clones."
I made the exact same promise for droids, and look at where we are now, Doe. We play
exactly. And it's a fun game. It's I think in that space when it released, because it released back when like 40k was still like 8th edition was quite clunky in a lot of ways. 7th ed like quite clunky. So it was in there, smaller forces, tighter combat, alternating as well. And I mean, like, clearly they've got like some good influences from a certain D20 rolling other system out there. But Snappy, I always thought of it as the Magic the Gathering of wargaming, because you could sit down and get a game. Oh, that's more X-Wing, to my opinion. Or it's the Magic the Gathering of it, because you play a game quick. In a tournament you're playing 3 rounds and you're going through it, sort of thing. You're not doing that with 40k. You're maybe doing that with Infinity sometimes, but not really. It's also
Infinity can be very quick if both players know.
But I mean, or Malifaux even, because I can go to Malifaux.
Malifaux drags out now. The current set of Malifaux is like, and it's just I'm actually not happy with it at the moment. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, that's a pity. But yeah, so Legion to me kind of fit that in between gap. It's like, okay, well, I've got more than an hour, but I don't have 3 hours. And that was a good one for an evening out drinking sort of like thing. You just
casual
rock up and do a thing. Yeah. In comparison to 40k, it was like, okay, well, we're playing this whole game. We're gonna get you at 6, and we're gonna leave when the place closes, sort of thing.
Again, go.
And I mean, like now 40k is a bit more streamlined, but I think games like Legion kind of drove them to it, because like it's the modern world. We kind of need to be a bit snappier.
It's a little harder to get into than say X-Wing, because you've got to sort of buy a box. It's more expensive. buy more stuff. You've got to build and assemble and paint. We don't have to paint them, but it looks way cooler if you do.
It does. Yeah, it's pretty like, at least for South Africans, it's a bit difficult because like we don't really have a local painters sort of like army wide. I sell here, paint my army for me sort of thing. There's a couple.
Recently, yeah, they've been picking up lately. I've been seeing them more and more locally. And there's quite a few floating around now. And
there's a couple of Cape Townians and Durbanites who do it, but I haven't seen too many up here in Joburg.
There are a few floating around. Now and then they speak up in the Infinity group, because getting an Infinity army painted is much cheaper than getting a whole Legion army.
Yeah, like five models and 3 tokens. Cool.
Yeah. But Legion, I think, has been growing in South Africa. Even, I mean, so obviously during the beginning of the virus, it cut off immediately. But recently, there's been quite a big push to grow the communities back up and try and get it going again. So,
yeah. I mean, there's a couple of good expansions that come out in the meantime as well. There's like Anakin. Every like clone player has like been like, yes. So, I mean, there's been interesting things like there's new Wookiees, there's the weird bus thing coming. I think they've got a good release sort of like plan coming in. So, I mean, I'm interested to see where they go with it.
Yeah, it certainly seems like they're supporting it.
I don't. So, Greg, I really don't know like what FFG are doing with most of their games at the moment.
Their formula is like they take a dartboard and they're like, okay, we're canceling Destiny.
yeah. We'll keep the role-playing component of L5R, but regular L5R, no. Or we'll do these things. Like, it's interesting to see what they choose to kind of push or not. And to me, a lot of the games feel like they've got a lifetime in them, and I worry. I like that Legion's lasted longer than Rune Wars. Yay, but I think that's the kind of like the Star Wars thing that's kind of holding it up.
And the 4 factions is important. Like, that's my rule for war games nowadays, is if a war game launches and it doesn't have 4 factions, it's not going to survive. So them adding those 2 factions was like key to its survival.
Yeah. So they get a variety, not always like, oh no, it's the Imperial player with their tank crawler or their AT-ST again. Oh, it's the Rebel guys with, the same list as always. So yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So yeah, other tabletop games are Armada, of course. Which I prefer, but is less
really
popular.
It's a really fun game. It's just expensive, and as I was saying, like the availability of the ships is actually really bad at the moment, especially if you're an Imperial player. A lot of their very good ships you can't find them. And if you're a Rebel player, or even like with some of the new factions, getting their fighters, it's like impossible. So, and like a lot of them play very heavy like fighter lists. So it's interesting. I've really enjoyed it, the few games that I have played of it. And I don't know, it's not as crazy and wacky as Battlefield Gothic got.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels very similar. And like the fact that it was scale stuff, but still in a very neat and swift way. And I love the mechanic of like, planning the orders for the big ships way ahead, because they're just like, it's so long to get everyone ready and on board. It was a nice idea. I still like, I don't know, like it's very tempting to try and get like that Super Star Destroyer. Even though I didn't even play the faction, but
trust me, I've even in fact sent out inquiries as to how much it would cost me just as a display item to have a Super Star Destroyer on my shelf. It's very expensive for a display item, so I've resisted until now.
Pretty much.
Never know. Like next time I get a bonus or something. Like in fact, last time I got a bonus was last time I like started querying it and stuff.
Yes. To me, that's where like Lego or like Games Workshop models, just models that I like. It doesn't have to be a faction I play, just me a pretty model.
So Armada is actually also seeing a resurgence thanks to the addition of 2 factions.
Yes, I've seen a few more games being played at the moment, which is it's nice to see.
Community's buzzing about it, so that's good. It's good for its health. I don't know if it'll.
Not sure if it will either. So those out there. You blipped for a moment there, Greg.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So I was saying that this level of health is the same level of health I saw when it first came out. So we need to see if it's sustained before I
Yeah.
buy any more ships. I'm seeing how sustained this level of stuff is.
So what you're saying
Otherwise,
is I need to go and dig out my fleet and get some games in.
maybe. Certainly not buying any more ships
Mm,
until I see it sustained.
no, agreed. Like you can't. It's one of those things. It's like it's one of those things like with like Crisis Core and those kind of things as well. Like you just don't see anyone playing it, so it's like no point in getting into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or, like as we mentioned before, Star Wars Destiny, the card game.
The
We even
card
had
dice game.
indeed, we had a whole episode explaining its mechanics and everything. You can go back and watch
Ah,
that in our archives.
yes.
The episode title was "It Is Your Destiny."
To
um,
fade away and become one with
the-
the Force.
so they
That was a really
discontinued.
interesting game as well. Like it had a lot
Mm,
of cool little mechanics and stuff. I loved the expansions and like the weird things that they did with some of the heroes. So
mm.
that got really cool. But yeah, like tournament wise, it wasn't seeing that many people there.
Yeah, and it fell into the trap of random cards and boosters, right? So
Yes, and worse, random
mm,
dice and boosters.
yeah, well,
Like,
exactly. So,
and I mean, like locally, there's no seller's market for that,
mhm,
and you can imagine in most like not America or middle of Europe, sort of like I mean, outside of the UK, sort of even, like so, I think the resellers market is just not a thing.
mm.
So, and when it is, it's super expensive. Like I can remember like seeing some of the prices that like Andrew be asking for some of the cards, be like, I can understand this, but that's still
Mm.
a lot.
A lot of money for a card game.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the positive news is if you really want to play Destiny, there's a really good tabletop simulator mod for it that
Yeah,
actually even
that's the other
generates
thing.
boosters for you if you want to do a draft and stuff.
The draft was kind of cool in there. I loved their draft idea because you had like split factions. So it was like
Mm,
Anakin, and you could play dark side or light side version of him.
mm, mm,
It's a quite cool idea there.
mm. So yeah, and in fact, in the TTS module, because it got cancelled, there was 2 additional expansions they never released,
Yes.
and they've added it to the TTS module, so you can actually play
Oh, that's
expansions that didn't
cool.
even exist in the game.
That's cool. It's been interesting. I've been following the L5R stuff after it got cancelled, and there's a whole lot of art that's been
Mm.
commissioned by FFG that's now not going to be released. So all
Yeah.
the artists have been asking for permission to release it, at least on their profiles and stuff. So
Mm.
that's been kind of like I'm like, oh man, that champion looks really cool. I would have liked that,
Yeah,
but
would have liked to see what they became. Now you just have to make a character and play them in a campaign some
yeah,
stage.
yeah, exactly. But whenever that happens.
One day, one day.
One day. So yeah, I think we've now been speaking for
we have
our given time.
we reached our allotted time. So if you've been listening, are there any questions in the chat or anything? I can't see the chat window.
Magnus would like someone to run a Ravenloft game, but not him.
Even me, I'd like someone to run a Ravenloft game, Magnus. Maybe I'll have a look at the new book when it comes out. If I get inspired, I'll let you know. But we'll have to see. I do like Ravenloft as a setting. You can do such shenanigans there, and I read a lot of the Ravenloft books when I was younger. So
Yeah. Oh,
my heart is there. My heart is in
exactly.
because I'm an undead. Because only the undead get trapped in Ravenloft.
It's true.
But yeah. Thanks for listening to the show, those who are watched live, and thank you if you're listening to the show as our post-recorded version.
Indeed.
Feel free to head on over to our social media and such if you have not already, and give us a follow or a like. We're here every Tuesday on every second Tuesday on the Molcast, Twitch TV/the Molcast. And found on where all good podcasts are listenable, and our YouTube channel.
Indeed. Get the video version of it on my YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you check out Discord, which links in various other places within there. You can find it. I don't know if you can probably search for it, but the Geek World Trade /Smallcast one.
I'll put it in the description below of this video that you're listening to on podcast listener / YouTube.
Yes.
Otherwise, just go
we're always looking for new people.
Discord now.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, we'll catch you around the next time. Let us know on various socials what you'd like for us to talk about. If there's anything in particular, if you'd like to appear on the podcast, let us know as well. We're always looking for new guests. And if you have any suggestions of people who we should think about looking for, also please send that our way.
Yeah, send us messages. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Cheers all.
Good night.